moment every entrepreneur hits. You're working harder than you ever have. The calendar is packed, but the inbox feels endless. That to-do list never gets shorter, and somehow the business still isn't growing the way that it should be. But the problem isn't effort. The problem is leverage. Welcome to the Leverage Podcast. I'm your host, John Davidson, and every week I'm sitting down with founders and top performers who have found that lever. The hire, the system, that mindset shift that changed everything. This show is for the business owner who's ready to stop being the bottleneck and start being the architect. Let's get into it. Welcome to another episode of the Leverage Podcast. I'm your host, John Davidson, and today I'm excited to have this guest. He's an entrepreneur, he's a TV success story, and he's a #1 best-selling author. Please join me in welcoming Jason Omen to the Leverage Podcast. Jason, thank you for joining me today.
Absolutely. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. You know, when I first heard about conversations with millionaires, my instant reaction was I need to know more. And so
Nice.
I know that you have spent a lot of time with a whole lot of successful people, and you've learned a lot, which you've shared with the masses, and our audience is going to learn about this today. To start off, share with us, what is Conversations with Millionaires?
Yeah, so basically the way that book happened is, if it's okay to kind of go into a little backstory here.
Yeah.
I was a featured success story on a TV infomercial back in the late 90s, actually, going that far back now. And I was living in California still at the time. There was a guy who had, granted, this is pre-internet, so just understand that here. He had a little AM radio station, a radio show on a station in Long Island, New York. And he basically had always been into hearing, listening to talk radio stuff, got his own show, and, wanted to start interviewing people. He saw me on the TV show and got in touch to interview me on the show, on his radio show. So we did that. And then I got him in touch with one of my millionaire mentors, Robert Allen, who a lot of people have heard of. And that helped us get Mark Victor Hansen, because they've done some books and projects together.
Yeah.
And then, it just kept on leading. Once you get some big names, it's easier to get more big names.
Yes.
And we eventually got Tony Robbins' mentor, Jim Rohn, before he passed. And basically what would happen is I would find out he was going to be interviewing these people. And I, provided some of the questions to ask the different millionaires. And I would basically, this is back before cell phones, but I would call up with a landline. I would call up the radio show from across the country, California to New York, and have the producer put me on hold. And I would be able to listen to the radio show over the phone lines in long distance phone across the country. And, I'd be on the edge of my seat listening to the, millionaires answering questions, some of which were questions that I had asked myself. And I remember thinking, as I was listening to some of these, I remember thinking like, God, I can't believe there's so many people who are ambitious and entrepreneurial and, would love to be able to create a better life for themselves, but they don't even know this show exists. And even if they did, they're too far away to hear it. Because if you're not in the parking lot across the street of an AM radio show, there's not enough bandwidth or, wattage, I guess would be the term, to be able to even hear the show.
Yeah.
Granted, this is before internet and all the crazy that's happened since that, as far as advantages and stuff. So I basically would, hang up the phone and I would have tons of notes of all this great stuff the millionaires were talking about, and feeling like, God, I can't believe all the people who didn't get to hear the magic and power of what these guys were talking about. And I'd be like, well, what can you do? All you can do is all you can do. And I was doing the business at the time that got me on the TV show. And after a number of years of doing that business, I just kind of got to a point where it's like, I wanted to kind of make a shift into doing something a little different. And one of the things that happened is I was, again, at an event, and somebody was talking about being a #1 best-selling author. And I'm like, whoa, that's got some power, some leverage to it. Speaking of leverage, right? And so I said, but I don't even have a book. How am I going to be a number one best-selling author?
Yeah.
And so it got my gears turning, and I used kind of some steps to come up with an idea for my first book. And that was the idea to get uh, the interviews of him interviewing these different millionaires, have him send me the tapes. I would get them transcribed and turn them into a book called Conversations with Millionaires. Um, and did that and did it as an ebook, a PDF ebook at first, just to make sure people had good responses and feedback to it, and people loved it. And I'm like, okay, this is a real deal now. Let's print this and turn into a paperback book, get it up on Amazon, and see what we can make happen. So we did a special campaign. It became a number one bestseller, and it's been off to the races ever since.
That's incredible. And what year was it? Was that published in 2002? Am I seeing that correct?
So the first edition of the book was in 2001.
Mm-hmm.
So this is 25 years ago now, but yeah, it is such timeless wisdom from these millionaires in it that even today people get it and love every chapter and all the nuggets in each one of the chapters, and it's been great.
Yeah, one thing I really love about business is the evergreen insights, right? And so
Yeah.
like we see all this innovation, especially nowadays, is happening. We've got AI, we've got social media, and you've got XYZ, right? And it's like sometimes it feels like, oh, there's this new way to be successful, or you got to use this thing, or you got to use this prompt, or what have you to be successful. But there are so many universal truths of business that stand, you know,
Of time.
that are timeless. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if, maybe you incorporate them in a little bit different way if you have access to new technology or whatever. But it is pretty amazing that, yeah, you have these pillars that have stood the test of time. And, one key I know to success is really perseverance,
Oh,
right? And so, if you don't mind, I'd like to take this a little bit personal,
okay.
because I want to share with our audience, a challenge that you have been working through that has required a lot of resilience, a lot of perseverance, but I believe it's also a very inspiring story with how you're pushing through. Go ahead and share that with us.
Okay. So back in 2007, I was basically not hydrating enough, not getting enough um, water and hydration in my system. And I ended up getting dehydrated and had a stroke. The stroke spiked my blood pressure and caused a brain aneurysm that ruptured. I'm sure you can imagine that can cause some challenges and difficulties. So it put me in a coma for 10 days with a 12% chance of survival.
Wow.
And the doctors and neurologists that were kind of, working on me, doing the procedures and whatever to save my life, and then doing the tests on me after the operation, basically said if he survives this at all, he's probably going to just be a vegetable, but at least he'll be alive.
Yeah.
And so, they kind of tried to soften it for my family that was there. And they said, just be prepared and be forewarned that, he's never going to be 100% again. And so, of course, their feeling was as long as he survives, we'll take whatever we can get on the rest.
Yeah.
And so, luckily, I'm not handicapped physically in any way, but I have pretty severe short to midterm memory challenges, to the degree that I wake up every day and I don't know what day of the week it is. I don't know what the date is. I don't know anything I'm supposed to do that day. I don't know anything I did the day before or the day before that. And basically, I wake up. What I've learned to do is put a notebook next to my bed, by my shoes. So the second I wake up and I look down to get dressed, I see a notebook, and then it has, like, when I remember to do this anyway, it would have things from the day before to remind me and hopefully like trigger memories like, oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, that's right. Because without that, there would just be a blank slate of no memory of anything.
Wow.
And that's the only thing that kind of solves the stress of waking up with no idea it's very stressful to wake up and you don't know what date it is, what date it is, what you're supposed to do that day, what you did the day before. It's just all nothing. And I'm still ambitious as all get out. So I want to make forward progress on stuff, but it's very difficult when you don't know where you left off yesterday to keep on going the next day. So I've learned some tricks for remembering things. If it's something you're open for me throwing out real quick,
Please. Yeah, I'd love to.
everybody has something like, oh, I got to make sure I remember that. So one of the biggest keys, obviously everybody knows repetition. You can repeat the thing out loud to yourself. Oh, I got to remember that. So you can repeat it. But the biggest thing that's worked for me, in addition to the repetition, is adding emotion, because the emotional experiences in our life are things we remember. That thing that happened 3 days ago that didn't affect you emotionally at all, you can't remember it no matter what, because there's no reason to. So what I've come up with is my little phrase for that is that emotion is the glue that makes memory stick. So, it's a powerful thing. And then one of the other things I've learned to do is, if there's something I want to make sure I remember the next day when I wake up, I'll write it out by hand 20 times, and I'll try to supercharge and add emotion to it each time. And I'll kind of link waking up tomorrow is when I want to think and remember these things. And if I do it well enough, then I can wake up out of, open my eyes and be like, oh, bam, there's that thing I wanted to remember. So, that's all you can do is all you can do. And that's what's worked for me so far. So for whatever it's worth.
Wow. Well, I really appreciate you sharing that with us, and also sharing, the different ways that you're overcoming it. And I have no doubt that there's going to be people in this audience who are listening and watching who, you know, are feeling down, or have a similar experience, memory loss for any sort of reason, and feeling like I can't do what I used to do because I have this challenge. And what you're proving and what you're living out, Jason, which is really inspiring, is that no, you may have this challenge, but there are ways through it, there are ways around it. Don't give up, keep taking steps forward, right?
Yeah. It just goes back to that saying, where there's a will, there's a way. And I refuse to give up the will. And I will find a way to get back to cranking it again. So,
I love that. Well, thank you
yeah.
so much for sharing that. I want to get into some of these behaviors of millionaires that you witnessed.
Okay.
Fortunately, it was a long time ago, so you probably remember.
Yeah. Long-term memory.
That's just the long-term memory is just fine, fortunately.
Yeah.
But you know, something about millionaires, there's probably a lot of myths, right? There's probably a lot of things that we think we know, that might be inaccurate, and then there might be things that we just don't know at all. But you know these things because you have worked with, and you've spent time with, significant time, a number of millionaires. And so my first question is, what are some of the patterns that you recognized as you're spending time with these very successful people? What were the common things that they're doing that enabled them to reach, such a incredible status?
High levels. Yeah. So one of the most important things that I kind of came across and learned and watched happen is the development of the right disciplines. So everybody's heard a million times, write goals, um, set goals for yourself. And what I've seen, the difference in people that just set goals, but then nothing really happens, and very successful people who achieve them, is they on purpose develop the disciplines necessary to make those goals a reality. And the better you get at doing that, the higher and higher you can go, and the more, let's say, the more what seems to be challenging goals can be achieved. And the better you are at setting creating the right disciplines, developing those disciplines, and being consistent with them, the higher levels of success you can get to. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Now, did you witness or did you learn spending time with these millionaires how some of these folks developed these disciplines? Because it's all well and good to say, hey, you need to be disciplined. And I'm like, yeah, you're preaching to the choir over here. But, what are some steps for the listeners and viewers to say, okay, I'm not disciplined today the way I would like to be. I understand the need for it. How can I get there?
Right. So I think an important thing to do is to just stair step your way up there. It's very difficult to go from terrible at something or having no experience with it to being an expert at it. But if you stair step your way up the process, you can do it. So you can start small and grow as you go.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one of the disciplines that one of the really successful people that I spent time with along the way did, and anybody can do this. It takes, no talent and it's super easy. And it's the discipline. What he used to do is, if you basically right away in the morning, if you have to go to the bathroom, go to the bathroom, but then come back and with pen and paper, write out your most important goal for the day by hand 20 times on paper and really drill it into your mind and your memory, and then add emotion that, which is what I learned from this whole thing is add emotion to that as much as you can while you're writing it out, and really supercharge the desire and how awesome it'll be to have accomplished that. And just start with something simple like that, and stair step your goals and accomplishments to higher and higher levels. Sometimes amazing things can start with just a simple success, with simple actions, small level, but it can build on itself. And the better you get at doing that, the higher and higher levels of success you can achieve by just continuing to stair step up to higher levels.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I hear what you're saying. One question I have, you're saying, attaching the emotion, right? And I understand what you mean, but I don't quite understand how to do that. Can you share a little bit more clarity around, as I'm making all of these notes, how do I effectively attach emotion to those things?
Right. So one of the ways you can do it is to visualize accomplishing the task or the goal, and then just think about and imagine it as if it's real and happening to you right now in this moment, and just kind of build up the emotions and celebrate, really celebrate having accomplished it. And the more you do this, the easier it gets, because your body becomes conditioned to, being able to develop and conjure up emotions, especially positive emotions, and attach them to achieving the goal that you want to achieve that day, or a bigger goal that might take a week, a month, 6 months, a year, whatever. But that goes back to the stair stepping I was talking about earlier. But conjure up emotion. I mean, just visualize and imagine how awesome it'll be to accomplish it, and the impact it'll make in your life or the lives of others, if it's something that affects other people positively too. And use the power of that positive emotion to supercharge yourself, to do the actions, to continue and stay consistent with it. And it's amazing what you're really truly capable of by doing that.
Yeah, that's an incredible insight. I appreciate that very much. Now, I want to get into some of the habits, some additional habits of these millionaires. But first, let's listen to a message from our sponsor, Sphere Rocket.
Business owners and entrepreneurs will place a proven executive assistant VA for just $4 to $8 an hour, and if they don't perform, you don't pay. Imagine freeing up 20 plus hours a week by someone handling your most time-consuming tasks like admin work, managing emails, scheduling meetings, and so much more. This one hire could transform your productivity and give you back the time you need to focus on growing your business. At Sphere Rocket VA, we make this possible in as little as 7 days. We'll place a proven executive assistant VA in your business for just $4 to $8 an hour, and your VA will take over day-to-day administrative tasks, help manage your email, email and calendar, follow up with past clients, giving you back 20 plus hours a week so you can increase your sales and even enjoy more personal time. And here's the best part. If they don't give you back 20 plus hours a week in the first month, you don't pay Sphere Rocket a dime. We've done this for thousands of business owners, and now it's your turn to see the results. Click the link around this video to schedule a demo and discover how this one hire can completely change how you run your business. Remember, if within 45 days the VA doesn't perform, you don't pay.
All right, and we are here with Jason Omen. He is, of course, the author of Conversations with Millionaires, as well as an entrepreneur and TV success story. Jason, you're sharing a lot of great insight on your time spent with millionaires and the habits that they have and what we can learn from them. Question for you, spending all this time, well, I should say before spending time with this group of prestigious people, you probably had some assumptions, right? Of what this, top tier financially of society is like. What are some of the misconceptions that you learned that we have about millionaires?
Well, I would say one of them is that, some people might think there's some kind of almost mystical, magical powers that they have or something, because how the heck does somebody, there's people out there who literally have, and not just once, but multiple times created, $1 million or more in a month or less, or a week, or, there's people that have done it in an hour, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And, when you get really good at the right kind of things that have enough, as know and love the word leverage, when you have the right leveraged actions and systems that you can take advantage of, it's amazing, truly amazing what's possible. So that's the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah, and when you talk about leverage, clearly you're not going to reach the level of becoming a millionaire if everything relies on you, right? And so what do we mean by leverage in business? We mean a multiplier effect, something that provides enhanced productivity, enables you to buy back your time, right? Ways that basically enables you to scale rather than doing things kind of
one at a time
and that sort of a thing. And so what are some, I'm sure it varies and there's multiple types, but what are some of the types of leverage that you experienced from these millionaires you were spending time with?
Yeah, well, one of them is just some simple systems like autoresponder systems where you can have proven marketing messages going to hot prospects for the kind of stuff that you have for sale. And, that's kind of the most basic one that comes to mind is an autoresponder sequence. I've seen people do, if you've ever seen some of the big launches that have happened out there, once you get a proven marketing message for your product, service, or information that works and converts and makes sales, you can get all kinds of joint venture partners and all kinds of media sources to run marketing and ads and promotions through. It's amazing what can happen with, for example, a video on YouTube and then leveraging it on different social media channels and platforms now. You can even combine those and have YouTube videos that promote a subscription to an autoresponder sequence, and then get the video out on all the different platforms, ask for people to share it, run ads to it, and have it promote a subscription form, an opt-in form for an autoresponder sequence, and get stuff cranking that way too. That's a really simple one that comes to mind. So it just depends.
Yeah, I think the theme that I'm hearing there is you're kind of building something one time that just continues to work, right?
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
This is one of the reasons why investors love tech companies, right? Is essentially you build one thing and you sell it a million times, versus there are some other industries, products or services where every time you have to do something every time you make money, right? And so you might probably a very simple example of that would be like a lawn care business, right?
Yeah.
You're not getting, you're not making any money if you're not mowing the lawn.
Yeah.
And so how do you scale a
Well,
business like that? Well, you just have to hire people to mow lawns. You have to buy mowers. And you could say, well, okay, well, you built this system where a bunch of these people just go off and do that, but you still have a lot of people just physically having to mow these lawns, rather than when you introduce technology in a certain situation and it's like, I spent the time to perfect this one process, but now it just goes, and as it's going, now I'm doing other stuff
Right.
that I'm freed up to do. Is that pretty accurate? Or would you add anything to that?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And then by doing that, you can, like in essence, that'd be like almost franchising it in different cities around the country,
Mm-hmm.
and that type of thing has been done in different businesses for decades, and it's amazing what's possible. Yeah, dead on.
Yeah. Well, and one other piece of leverage that successful people are definitely applying are new income streams, right? And so I
Yeah.
understand that you have some experience developing new income streams. Please share a bit about that with us.
Yeah, so I actually ended up creating a course about that based on all the amazing um, concepts and secrets and strategies from doing projects and spending time with all the different millionaires around over the years. And I created a course that kind of teaches how to basically be able to create new income streams pretty much whenever you want if you're a disciplined person and take action with it. And more information about that is at unlimitedincomestreams.com. That's unlimitedincomestreams.com.
I appreciate that. And I'm not going to ask you to share all the details on this episode, of course, but can you give us an example or a little teaser of what we will be learning at unlimitedincomestreams.com about these incremental streams of revenue?
Yeah. Well, I'll give you an example. A little while after I did the first book, Conversation with Millionaires, and watched it become a number one bestseller, it kind of sparked up some ideas for some other stuff. And I did another project with some more millionaires that the whole project took less than 30 days to put it all together and make it happen. And we got a check for over $100,000 from, like I said, less than 30 days of work for it. And it's all from knowing how to come up with winning ideas, following, like I said, following the steps that are taught in the course. And it's amazing what can happen from taking winning steps and developing the right disciplines to take action.
Yeah, that's super, super interesting. And that is a key to success, is how, a lot of times we're just making money one way, right? And so, yeah, like, how do you make money? Well, I have a job. I'm employed by a company, and the company pays me a paycheck. And so every 2 weeks or what have you, I get money, right?
Yeah.
And so what are some of the different ways, just as kind of a high level teaser? So beyond that, right? If someone is listening, they're saying, yeah, I make money one way. I'd love to make money other ways. How can I make money in other ways besides just my 9 to 5 paycheck?
Right. So one of the things that I have just kind of developed a passion for is information marketing, and also known as infopreneuring, which is like information entrepreneur. And it's basically where you can, and this is kind of goes back into the Unlimited Income Streams course too, is many people have heard the phrase find a need and fill it. And so they go like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. I really need to do that. But what is the starting point, all that kind of stuff. So what I did in the course is basically teach 1, 2, 3, a recipe for how to find a need and fill it. So you basically can create, once you systemize and automate it, you can create one stream of income after another from it. And it's amazing what's possible.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's probably one of those situations, kind of like when you get a new car, and then and then you start seeing on the road all the same cars that you have, right? Or the
Right.
same colored car that you have. And
Yeah.
so I'm sure that in the same way, you identify a problem and, a revenue opportunity to provide a solution. That's a mindset shift, right?
Boom.
And
Absolutely.
now you start seeing, oh, hey, this could use a solution too. This could use a solution too. And, I'm sure that there are very similar tactics to solving multiple problems, right? You apply this system here, 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 and that revenue starts to flow.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the better you get at it and the more you master it, the more you can take advantage of um, doing that with one product after another, one service after another, different niche markets, all kinds of stuff goes from there. It's amazing what you learn from your successes that can be turned into more and bigger things. And it just starts from, step number one, getting it going, and then just pay attention to what works and do more of what works. This sounds stupid easy, but it's the truth. Do more of what works, and then figure out how you can take what works and make it work better with more leverage, with more automation and simpler ways that get bigger and better results. And the more you do that, the more success you can have.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Well, I just have a couple additional questions for you here. And one being is, as you're spending all this time with these very successful people, what was the one thing that surprised you most about millionaires?
Um, I think probably what comes to mind is that they're not as different or um, they're not magically more talented than or immensely smarter or any kind, like they're just humans who have developed the right disciplines and keep themselves focused on taking massive action towards goals that matter to them and that can make a difference in other people's lives. And it's truly amazing what can happen from um, building on your successes and taking things to higher and higher levels. And it just takes, you just need to get started and take action and build as you go and make, bigger and more progress. And don't give up till you get there.
Yeah. What I'm hearing from you, discipline is standing out to me, focus, having very specific goals. And also what you said there at the end is getting started. There's a lot, I talk to a lot of successful people on this show, fortunately. And one of the things I hear consistently is just get started. And so for those listeners and viewers, you can make every plan there is. You can plan for every possible scenario, but when it's done in a vacuum, until you get it out into the real world, you really aren't learning, right? You got to put it out
Absolutely.
there, you see what's happening, you adjust, you pivot, or you scale. Um, and that can be very effective. Is that something that you experienced with millionaires about, just getting the plan going, or, what was your experience with that?
Yeah. I mean, what's going to happen until you take action and get it moving? Like
Yeah.
that's, that's the difference maker. You can't build on something unless there's something that has been started to build on, so you got to take action, get it going, and then build on it higher and higher levels as you go. And it's truly amazing what's possible by just taking action. Pay attention to the actions that you took and the results that they got. Do more of what worked, do less of what didn't. Figure out, brainstorm, kind of mastermind a little bit on how could I have made that work even better? And then, okay, let's try that. Oh, it worked great. Oh, it didn't work. Okay, do more of what works great and keep on taking winning actions. And the world is your oyster.
I love that. That's incredible advice. Well, last question for you here, Jason, is for those listening who would like to know more about your book would like to connect with you, would like to learn about your course, how can folks connect with you in ways that you'd like them to?
Yeah, I'm on all the social media platforms. Facebook.com/author Jason Omen, Oman. And conversationswithmillionaires.com is where you can get the Conversation with Millionaires book. I also did a book called Conversations with Female Millionaires, which is at conversationswithmillionaires.com/CWFM. And then, like I mentioned, the course is literally the thing I'm more proud of than anything I've ever done, is at unlimitedincomestreams.com.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you joining me today, sharing such unique experiences that you've had and the insights that you learned from those things. Thank you, Jason Omen, for joining me today on the Leverage Podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it. You were awesome.